area, and I can vouch for that. But no, but when I met Tom, I had Tom had written a book called Secret Machines with A.J. Hartley, who's a Shakespeare scholar, actually, well, he just retired out of professor out of North Carolina and Chapel Hill. And they wrote it, and it had some very interesting scenarios in it. People thought some of these people involved in UAP thought Tom's advisors, this is before I knew him, he had some pretty serious advisors, as you mentioned earlier, might have told him things that maybe they shouldn't have told him. And so they had asked me unofficially, would you mind going out and chatting with him? And I did. Had a wonderful time with Tom. He completely dispelled any of my suspicions of where he got his information was. Tom was incredibly well informed on this topic, and he was able to put these disparate pieces of information together and come up with a story that happened to be accurate. And in some cases, not all of them, but in some cases. And then when I got to talk to him, I was really surprised at how well read he was on the topic, how interested he was in it, and his connections were superb. I mean, he was hanging out with people from the Lockheed Martin Skunk Works. I mean, so and plus other elements of the military at a very, very high level. So when I got to know him, we the next day we had lunch, and then he said, "Well, why don't you?" He said, "I'm thinking of forming a company. Why don't you join?" And I wasn't really interested. I said I was more interested in the research end of it. So he said, "Let's do that." And he said, "How would you structure it?" And so got a cocktail napkin. It was me and Hal Puthoff. Jacques Vallée was there, and somebody else who never wants to be named, so I won't name that person, but very well known guy. And Jacques and this other guy begged off, but Hal and I said, "Fine, if you're able to do this, have a research angle to it, we'll do it." And that's when we started, and it was going pretty good. We overestimated how much people would be interested in it. We thought there'd be a great amount. It turned out there wasn't all that much. We have 3 or 4 thousand investors, but they're mostly small investors, 150, $200 kind of things. Wasn't nearly enough to keep everything going. And then COVID hit. And so we had to sort of shut down temporarily the research arm that is going to be resurrected, hopefully soon, we found out. And so we decided to become an entertainment company, and it's which what we've been doing for the last, gosh, I don't know, 3 or 4 years now. And we have a dozen projects in the works. We have a project with Brendan Fraser and Sarah Michelle Gellar coming out, I think, in the fall, called Breaking Bear. It's a cartoon thing, animated, nothing to do with UFOs. But we have about a half a dozen, 10 other projects in the works, all about that. And they're in various stages of development. But if anybody knows anything about the movies business, TV, what a hellhole. I mean, I don't recommend anybody ever get into that business. I mean, it takes years to get anything, get funding together, the actors, the scripts written, and everything can conform. Like we had an agreement with Legacy, and not with, I'm sorry, with Legendary Pictures to do a television series based on secret machines. And that, we had that with 2 years, and they developed a pilot, they did everything, and then they canceled it at the last minute. And that was their deal. I mean, it was okay, perfectly fine. But now we're out and pitching it to Netflix and some of the other streaming services. So we hope we'll catch some fire here pretty soon. So hope springs eternal. So we'll see what happens. But then, and then Tom and I just developed this relationship, over, this period of time for the last 10, 12 years now. And we're generally very close on this topic. So,
Right. And so I guess, uh, so one of the more high profile people that Tom was in contact with was John Podesta, who was like Bill Clinton's chief of staff and Hillary Clinton's campaign manager during her campaign.
yeah.
So, can you say anything about what kinds of meetings that Tom and John Podesta had?
No, I can't because Tom is very, very closed-mouthed about all of that, and I don't blame him. He doesn't share. He never shared with me, and we talk about everything, but and I don't bother him about it. You know, who his advisors were and what they were doing, not doing. He always kept that pretty close to his chest. I remember when it was finally exposed, I had just met him and he had called me up and he was absolutely panicked about it. He said, "This is awful," you know. And I mean, he said, "I would never, ever expose anybody," and he never had any interest in any classified information on this or anything along those lines. He really played it straight. So he was pretty surprised and shocked about that because he always told people that he'd spoken with, I won't share anything if you don't want me to, and he never did. And as a matter of fact, it was interesting when we first started To the Stars, and we had Chris Mellon come in, Lou Elizondo, we had Steve Justice from the Skunk Works, Hal Putoff. These are all veterans of highly classified programs. I mean, Chris Mellon was oversaw all the special access programs for the military for many years, and we were all looking at each other and trying to gauge how much each one of us knew about UAP and the phenomenon, and it was a dance, let me put it that way, and nobody broke down and shared anything because everybody knew what you did know, just because, we all have security clearances, it doesn't mean we're all entitled to know what each other's business was. So everybody kept pretty close-lipped about it, about their own involvement or their own knowledge base. And that goes to this day. But we respect that among each other, And I mean, trust me, I mean, I tried to get a conversation steered in a way. And it was, and you realize right up front, these people are not comfortable doing that because they respect the oath they took. And like I do, you know what I mean? You just don't talk about things like that.
Right. But so when you were meeting with Podesta, did you ever personally join those meetings with Podesta, or was that a
No, no, I never met with Podesta or any of those guys. Tom's original advisors, never met them. I knew it was Podesta. I knew Jim McCaslin that came out. And there was another one that came out, General, can't remember his last name. And then about six others, two I guessed, two were very senior officials in the intelligence community. But Tom wouldn't confirm that, but I know it and I know who they were. I found out through other means, but I never confronted Tom with that. And but no, I didn't know any of those guys. It wasn't until we formed our company and then we all got to know one another that everybody started meeting everybody else. So
I see. So I guess on a couple of these folks that were